Thank you again, Dr. Rocco, for making this, for giving this great idea. This week's Parsha is Parshas Chookas, as we all know. And Chok just means that it's a mitzvah, it's an obligation that we don't really understand. And it starts off with the obligation. First of all, it says, Zos Chukas HaTorah, that is the obligation of the Torah. So, and it's an obligation that we obviously don't understand. So the question is and it talks about the red heifer, the Parah Aduma. So the question is, what is it in the red heifer that we don't understand, first of all? And second of all, why is we calling it this is the obligation of the Torah? So the answer is that the obligation of the Torah really is that we know the obligations of the Torah. We understand them somewhat, but just the general concept is that we don't really understand it. We think we understand it. We don't really understand it. That means that we understand a little bit of the understanding, but we don't really get the whole thing. And so they ask, what is it that we don't understand about the red heifer? So it's brought down that the red heifer, we don't understand that the person who actually sprays the red heifer, he makes the other person becomes clean, and the person who actually sprays it, he himself becomes unclean. So the question is, what's so hard to understand? Sometimes when you're digging in the field and you create a tree or whatever it is, sometimes people get dirty and the other one gets clean, whatever it is, whenever and what's so difficult to understand? I think the partial answer to that is that the part that's hard to understand is that the Kohen, the priest, has an obligation to stay kadosh, to stay unclean. To stay clean. I apologize. To stay clean. And so what's not understood is that if I'm making the other guy clean, then at the same time I'm getting a sin for doing that. That means that it's not necessarily sin. Obviously it's a mitzvah, but the idea is that it's not the perfect situation for the Kohen. And that by itself is something that is not understood, that I'm trying to help him out, so how is it helping me out? So I think that's really understanding of the other part too together. I think to understand exactly Zos Chukas HaTorah is, the concept of the Torah is that it's not such a big deal doing something that I don't lose out. That means that if I do a mitzvah, let's say I give somebody help or I give something to somebody, right? That's one thing. But giving something to somebody when I'm not losing anything, that's nothing. That's okay, that's a good thing, but what is that already? But the obligation of the Torah is to give when I'm losing out. That means that it's a different type of giving. There's one giving that I'm just giving only when I have nothing to lose. I have enough on my own, so I'm going to give you some of my extras. The other time is to give you when I don't have enough for myself. That's a much higher level of giving. And the chok of the Torah is, the chok of what Hashem's saying is that try it out, work on that, and you'll see at some point it's not going to be anymore. It's going to be this great big mitzvah at this point. It's not going to be just a hardship. You get used to the concept and it becomes greater and greater, and it makes me into a greater person. And obviously with time, it's easier and easier to do. Hashem should bless us all, that we should all have the ability to be able to give even when we don't necessarily have enough for ourselves. And through that, of course, Hashem should open up His hands to give us enough, that we should never have an issue not having enough. We should always have more than enough, and we should always be blessed. Good Shabbos, everybody.